Now, Berta loved the fun and the unusual, but never let it be said that she does not have a special love for the classic and gorgeous French dolls from the golden age of French. And many, many are featured in her book. And I just brought some today that, well, let's be honest, they're some of my favorites. My favorites are always dolls. I love dolls that are all original. Well, I love most of them, but I really love dolls to find in their original costumes, because the costumes were such an integral part of the making of the doll to the doll makers, and so to find them that way just gives them that little added punch that is so wonderful. And this, I showed you at the beginning of the video, is a wonderful first doll. It is lot number 1 in the book, and this is an EJ, marked EJ by Emile Jameau. And in the book, we are showing you, we had her undressed and we have a photograph showing all of the different components of her costume, from her undergarments to her chemise to even the inside of her wonderful little bonnet, how beautifully it's constructed, her little original shoes. A truly extraordinary doll. Berta told me that she found this in Paris in 1960 on a trip there, and she had to beg the woman to buy it, and she's just kept it so preciously in her care ever since. A little doll sitting on her throne chair. And Berta's collection includes dolls by all of the premier of the French doll makers, from Leon Casimir Bru to André Tullier to Halipo to Schmidt to Leon Casimir Bru, probably everyone's favorite. And I have a little representation to show you, a beautiful example of an André Tullier bébé known as the AT bébé. And let me just show you her wonderful costume with the original bonnet to match. The bonnet on a wired frame with crepe de chine wired around it to give this luxury ruffled finish to it. Silk at the back with a woven-in pattern, and then the beautiful soft as can be silk dress around the front. Very, very classic colors were used by the French doll makers during this 1878 to 1890 period of doll making. The soft blues, the corals, soft pinks, very, very classic colors. The ivory, of course, always popular. And this wonderful style. And this, I hope the camera is able to pick up her beautiful deep paperweight eyes. A stunning example of the Tullier bébé. Now we have here another very beautiful example by Emile Jameau with the original signed shoes, as you can see, with the little rosettes on them, and a very, very interesting fabric and costume on this doll. Original, totally original, silk with coral jacket and the coral matching bodice of silk. But this really unusual, like tapestry woven fabric that the bulk of the dress is made from, with the applied braid trim and with the matching ruffled bonnet as well. I'm going to turn it again so you can see. Look at this little flouncy backside. That was so typical. If you find posters or illustrations of these dolls in the catalog or some of the publicity cards that Emile Jameau did at the time, he always showed the dresses with this flounce at the back. That was how they were designed to be, and that was the fashion of the time for little girls. On this side, we have what so few collectors will ever be able to own, and what so many cherish to have. And why so few will ever own one is there are so few available. We probably have not had more than 10 of the H dolls by Halipo throughout our 40 years. So that tells you just how extraordinarily rare they are. And this is an unbelievable example. And she is made more unbelievable by her superb costume. I hope the camera can pick up her face and pick it up from the side profile view as well, because she again has wonderful shaping. At first glance you think she's very slender, and then when you turn it around and see the face from the side, you see the very, very deep cheek curve and how full the cheeks are. But this is what really gives her artistry and design. Beautiful quality of bisque, and the sculpting with a little space between the teeth, which is so wonderful, and then that extraordinary costume that she is wearing from way above the top of her head, right down to her shoes. Shoes, bonnet, dress, undergarments, all extraordinary. Another doll, and this is another category of Berta's that were so beloved to her. I've tried to almost divide her collection in different categories. She has musical toys, of pull toys, of black dolls, of clowns. So many different categories were of interest to her. You saw the bisque dolls with sculpted hair before. And she really had a wonderful love for black dolls. She's one of the first collectors of black dolls. And I would say her collection is probably the peak of her black doll collection is this extraordinary example. And once again, if you do have a copy of the book, you'll be able to see the doll completely undressed and then the elements of the costume in the book. And here she is wearing her totally original costume, rare in so many ways. Rarity because of the size, rarity because of the original costume, rarity because how perfectly preserved she is, which is what everyone dreams to find. So this is an absolutely wonderful example of a Bebe Brew, all original, and in rare, she is 10.5 inches. And I'm going to show you one other little hidden surprise about her. If the camera will pick it up, she has her signed Brew shoes. Brew in Paris. And what a treat that is to find a doll like that with the original signed shoes. And then we have one more example by Gemot, and this is the incised model 10, and this is another totally original doll, and you're going to get to see it from all angles. The incised model is really important because the name Gemot was incised on the back of the head, not the typical red stamp, and it helps us to date the doll very precisely to 1884. That model was only made for about 1 year, and it's sort of a transitional model between the EJ and the stamped red Gemot doll. So a wonderful doll to be able to date. And this one, oh my, where was this little girl hiding for 150 years? She is so extraordinary, and how original she is with her and her beauty as well. And I want to turn it around and show you the back. Look at that wig. Look at that wig. That is unbelievable. All the way down to her waist, and the curls as soft and original as the day she left her factory home. And in her costume, designed for her by Ernestine Gemot, in a very unusual costume with use of cashmere wool and maroon velvet. Beautiful beading, silver pin, shoes and socks to match in the maroon color with these wonderful silk rosettes, and then the beautiful lace bonnet on top. These are just a few of the wonderful French dolls that Berta Hackney has cherished in her Hubbard, Texas home for many decades. Now, when people talk about Brew, they often talk about, they have one idea in their mind of what the face looks like, but the Brew face either evolved or had different models over the years, and there's a little argument which way that is. This is the earliest known face of the Bebe Brew. And it's a very special face, and a lot of collectors really cherish this because it may be the sweetest of the faces. As you get into the classic Brujune, the face becomes much more almost sensual. But this one is a very gentle child face, and this is one of the, I think there might be 8 to 10 Brews in the Berta collection. And this is one of my favorites. Please look at the hands, how very special they are. Classic Brew hands from this early period. Very beautifully designed. I mean, to me, they're as gorgeous as the face. And then when I turn the doll into profile, please look at the fullness of the face and look at the depth of those eyes. Very luxury detail to have stunning eyes like that on these early dolls. And a wonderful early costume. And then comes around again, and you can capture the depth of those paperweight eyes from the side once again. And then here we go around to the front. Very beautiful doll. And then our friend Mr. Gemot, in his earliest period, did what collectors refer to as a portrait Gemot. Now, portrait is kind of a misnomer because it's not a portrait of anyone in particular. Portrait in this case simply refers to it being a luxury model of his early period Bebe. And here we have her very, very deep modeling of the face. And again, I hope that the camera can come in deep around it. As she turns, you can see it from all angles. And you know, I've had this wonderful experience for 40 years of handling and cataloging these dolls now, so I get to see them from all of the angles and dimensions, and I realize more and more that so many of you don't. You'll see photographs in a book, or you may see a doll at a show or at an auction and you see it facing front to you, but to be able to actually look at it, I wish every one of you we could share and you could come and work with me for a while and you could see the wonderful detail with how these dolls were made. But this is an extraordinary example in a beautiful original costume. When she comes back around, please look at her eyes once again and look at how wide the eyes are. Very, very depth. They're called, but some collectors refer to these as wraparound eyes, which is kind of a funny name, but I get the point. They really wrap to the sides of the face and are very beautiful. And these dolls are absolutely perfect, and they all carry like our Gold Horse designation, meaning that we're sure these dolls are going to have investment, and we're willing to put our name behind that. So they're good opportunities for you. But now we come to another doll that I want to talk to you about. And this is where you as a collector have to make your choice. This may be one of the most beautiful dolls in the Berta collection, an extraordinarily rare doll. Definitely a portrait Jameau, and definitely of the type that collectors refer to as the wraparound eyes. Big, big, luminous eyes, just a gorgeous face. This little girl has a little sadness. I put her at the end of our book in the section that we refer to here in the office as the Heartbreaker dolls, because they're dolls that have had a little sadness in their life. And her sadness has come on her forehead, although honestly, I'm not too sure what it is. But there is some overpaint on her forehead. And so now, my question to you is, do you buy this doll or do you not? And this is an ongoing question with collectors. And when I do my seminars, my show and tell, pass around the room seminars for people to look at dolls in depth, I try to talk about this and ask people. And let me start by saying, first of all, there's no right or wrong answer. It's everyone to decide their standards of what they would collect. Here is a doll whose value, were she not to have this overpaint, would be in the $40,000 range. If you could buy that, but at what price would you buy this gorgeous doll to have in your collection? At what price? Some people say, I wouldn't have it, period. I'd never buy a damaged doll. And other people look at it and say, there is opportunity. I can't afford a $40,000 doll. I can afford a $5,000 doll or a $10,000 doll. So then you have to decide for yourself. And my comment, and the only reason I bring it up to decide it, is you should be thinking about it now. Not about this doll, but about that whole issue of condition and how it affects the value of a doll, and what's the bar you would have of what your standing collections are. Two of the best collections in the United States I know today. One is owned by a woman who says, I will never buy a damaged doll. And one is owned by a woman who says, in damage, for me, there's opportunity. So where does your answer?